On this week's episode of Amari Purple Talk, no Prince release for Record Store Day, and Sony should show some Rainbow Children One Night Alone commercials during that Grammy tribute thing, the Purple Spotlight, Bite the Boots, and more. Amari Purple Talk starts now. Welcome to episode 29 of Amari Purple Talk, a Prince podcast where I share my thoughts on the Prince musical singularity. I'm Richard Cole, your imagination funk soloist, and I want to start by thanking everyone that has tuned in. I hope you're enjoying the show. Please leave your comments on the show where comments are displayed. Please continue to download and listen from your favorite podcast platform. And YouTube listeners, please continue to like and subscribe. Feel free to also visit my website, amaricomm.com. You may also click the links in the show notes to follow me on social media and submit topics or questions for use in future episodes and purchase Amari Purple Talk merchandise. And with that out of the way, let's start with our first topic. And our first topic is no Prince release for Record Store Day. And these are my final thoughts on the matter. Okay, so the official Record Store Day list has been released. And there is no Prince product, no Sign of the Times on vinyl, no old editions, new editions, remastered, super deluxe, anything. And there's also no new Prince product that's out of print or from the vault that would be released as a novelty for Record Store Day. Okay, so I'm going to speculate because we're about 5 weeks out from the release of the Rainbow Children and the One Night Alone reissues by Sony. So maybe with that being so close to a release date for those items, that the smart idea may be not to sort of overload the market or overload the fan base with too much product. Because especially with the One Night Alone material, we are getting quite a bit of stuff from that. There's the box set that has about 4 or 5 CDs plus a DVD. There's the Rainbow Children. And not only are we getting those on CD, we're getting those on vinyl as well. And if we're kind of just recovering from the 1999 Super Deluxe Edition, financially, then yeah, maybe trying to, have us rush out on Record Store Day, at least this year, may not be a good idea. However, I'm going to also speculate that we are also 1 year away from Sony having the license to basically all of Prince's master recordings, as well as any and all vault recordings as well, because the estate controls everything. But on the Warner Brothers end, due to an existing contract that was signed during Prince's lifetime, we now have Warner Brothers releasing things like the 1983 piano and microphone, as well as originals and the Super Deluxe Edition of 1999. But Sony will have the license for everything come 2021. So I'm wondering if the estate is choosing to sit out on Record Store Day this year, not because of the upcoming Rainbow Children and One Night Alone reissues, but if they're just kind of waiting until they have everything, and especially the classic material, uh, under a license agreement with Sony that will probably, hopefully, get some kind of significant release for next year's Record Store Day. Because right now we are in 2020. We're 3 months in now. Uh, the Rainbow Children One Night Alone reissues. That's pretty significant. But for the rest of the year, there's not much left that can be released. I would guess if you're going to do within the remaining quarters of 2020, also too, keeping in mind the rumors of a Sign of the Times Deluxe Edition reissue from Warner Brothers, that may be coming in June, hopefully. But after that, yeah, you have a couple of quarters where Sony can sneak something in for the Christmas season, like a reissue of Crystal Ball. Um, there's still things like 2010 that can be reissued, Lotus Flower, Minneapolis Sound. After that, there's really not much left as far as any significant reissues that you could release. So once you kind of release those heavy hitters, and then you're into 2021, then I'm speculating that we're really going to start to see some very interesting releases coming from Sony. And probably with 2021 on the Warner Brothers end, since they own all the movie soundtracks, you will finally get that rumored Parade Super Deluxe Edition next year. So I'm wondering, again, like I said, this is just speculation. I don't have any inside information from either Sony or Warner Brothers or the estate. But like I said, I'm going to guess that the choice not to have any Prince product for Record Store Day is a conscious choice from the estate or by the estate to hold off until everything, and that includes all classic material, and then with that classic material, most or the vault material that the estate has control of as well, then you'll start to get to see some very comprehensive compilations, box sets, probably even a better, well, let's see, probably still couldn't do Purple Rain because Warner Brothers owns that, but I'd be willing to guess that there at some point would be kind of a joint licensing agreement with that in terms of any vault material related to that, to where you get a significant box set from that. But once everything else is under the complete license agreement with Sony, then I wouldn't be surprised if next Record Store Day, some of the stuff that we talk about on Amari Purple Talk in regards to, say, like last week's Bite the Boots topic, The Flesh, then you could see something like that maybe get an official release for Record Store Day starting off, and then maybe a limited run after that, and it's available in all major retail outlets or streaming services from that point. So I don't know. I'm hoping that's the case. Other than that, like I said, my other guess is that, like I said, we are a little over 5 weeks away from the reissues of Rainbow Children and the One Night Alone box sets and individual releases and vinyl releases. And yeah, that's, while we're all trying to save our pennies for those things, or making sure our, Amazon money's in place. So when it's time for it to, get that 2-day shipping, you're not playing yourself by, taking a chunk of it and getting the big Record Store Day thing. So I don't know. Those are my final thoughts in regards to the whole Record Store Day sort of controversy. I'm glad it's over. I'm glad we're not getting a Sign of the Times 2015 180 gram rehash, because that's already in stores. You can get it. It's not out of print, so glad it's all over. However, what do you guys think? Were you hoping for a Prince release this record store day? For me, there wasn't a lot on this list. There were a couple of other things from last year, non-Prince related. There was the Sly and the Family Stone live performance from Woodstock that was on vinyl. I was able to get that. Maybe a couple of other things that I wasn't able to get my hands on, but last year's list was pretty interesting. I did get His Majesty's Pop Life and the Versace Experience on cassette last year's record store day. But, like I said, this year there wasn't a lot. There's a David Bowie one. Let's see. There's the 45 to John Lennon's Instant Karma. That's interesting, but, it's not enough to make me want to go run out on record store day to get that. But, but as far as the Prince releases, a little disappointed, but hey, like I said, those are my two theories as to why we're not getting anything this record store day. But were you guys looking for something on record store day? Leave me a comment and let me know your thoughts. And so with that, we're going to end that topic and we're going to move on to our second segment. That segment is Sony should air commercials advertising upcoming Prince reissues during Prince Grammy tribute. I know that was a mouthful and it was hard for me to type that into the show notes, but that kind of sums it up in a nutshell. So again, here we are. We're also about a little over 5 weeks away from the broadcast on CBS of the Grammy tribute to Prince. Like I said, the list of performers I'm excited about. There's some people directly connected to Prince. There's, people that have probably been influenced by Prince. And then, of course, the obvious, let's put this artist on so we can get the ratings and get people to tune in. So with all of that being said, I feel, and this is, again, no inside information from the estate, no inside information from Sony or anything like that, but I thought that this would be the perfect opportunity if Sony could get some advertising time during that broadcast to advertise. Because, the release date for the albums are April 17th, and I believe that the broadcast date is April 21st. So you kind of have those 4 days that the record's released, but you can really amp up the promotion and kind of escalate the sales a little bit. Because, of course, us, the fans, we're going to tune in, whether we're for the tribute or not. I'm usually not one for tributes, but, given that you have Sheila E. involved in Morris Day and the Time and the Revolution, that's enough to get me to tune in right there. So there is that. However, you are going to have millions of viewers that were sort of, around during the hits period, and didn't think that Prince did anything after 1987 or something. And you're going to have younger generations tuning in, and you'll also just have millions of all ages just tuning in to this to, just to see what's going on. And like I said, for the collective, Prince is a household name. But like I said, based on those tiers of interest, for those, like I said, that only knew the hits and missed out on the Rainbow Children, or record enthusiasts that weren't aware that Prince released a live album during his lifetime. I feel that Sony could take advantage of this opportunity during the broadcast, and maybe during the first part, second part, third part of the show, and again kind of as it's as the credit after the credits have gone up, to kind of just release a commercial or some kind of a trailer advertising these releases. They're in stores now. That's how it can, you can end it on that note. In stores now, and people immediately after the broadcast can jump on and sort of iTunes or wherever, Amazon, and purchase digitally. They can go ahead and go on Amazon and order, or they can run out to their local record store and go grab these. And, for a lot of the Prince community that's of the mindset that this tribute is only focusing just on the 80s material, or it's heavy handed with the 80s material, this is an opportunity, or this would be an opportunity for giving exposure to this man's body of work that was beyond 1988, or beyond Bat Dance, or beyond Diamonds and Pearls even. For people that kind of just tuned out during the symbol period and never came back, for the reasons that while Prince wasn't under a major record label, so many masterpieces that got lost in the shuffle. This is an opportunity to shed plenty of light on a very significant period. And like I said, the original commercials for the Rainbow Children, you've got that right there. You could take some of that footage and kind of weave it into sort of a new, like I said, kind of a commercial, maybe kind of like a trailer almost. Utilize some of the footage from the Live at Aladdin DVD, kind of combine all of that, and get maybe some kind of celebrity voiceover. Get whoever you can get James Earl Jones or someone, or to do the voiceover for it, and give this thing some weight, and really get a chance to sell it, and sell that period, sell that era, that maybe not a lot of people in the mainstream are aware of. Because the tribute itself, it's going to sell the hits. They're going to run out and buy Prince Forever. They're going to go run out and buy Prince Ultimate if they can still get a copy of that. They'll run out and get Purple Rain. It's reissued on vinyl. You get the Prince remaster of it. The 2015 180 gram master is still available. People are going to run out and get that. But take a chance on any generation of music lover that's being exposed to this and want to go beyond the hits. You could sell some additional copies on that. I know they're designed to sell what they will sell, and I'm sure these things are making a significant amount of money for the estate, but to really, really capitalize on that tribute, Sony should take advantage of that and take that opportunity to sell, however many more copies needed. And again, at the same time, really let people know within, the Prince musical singularity, the historical significance of this period. And it's damn good work too. The Rainbow Children is a pretty strong, bold, artistic statement. The One Night Alone shows were a change of pace. It wasn't pyrotechnics and lasers, and it wasn't a greatest hits tour. It really delved not only into his musicianship, but the strength and the power of that configuration of the new power generation as well. So I don't know, if there's somebody that has an inside track to Sony, if there's somebody that works for Sony that's listening, hey, this is a free idea, free for nothing, not getting paid anything, not even paid in purple croutons, so, I'd again jump on it, take advantage of it, go for it. But what's most important is, what do you think? Like I said, there's definite fans of the Rainbow Children One Night Alone era. I'm pretty much a fan of that era. I'm looking forward to the reissues. So what do you guys think? Is too much emphasis on the 80s, in particular with the Grammy performance? Is that something that could be balanced out by Sony really giving these reissues some extra promotion beyond just the fan base and beyond the serious music collector? Leave me a comment and let me know your thoughts. And now we're going to move on to our Purple Spotlight. And our Purple Spotlight is a segment that highlights a Prince album, film, video, or an associated artist. And today's Purple Spotlight is on Brownmark, the man with the bass. In fact, he's so cold on the bass that even Prince once said that if he couldn't have Brownmark in the band, he'd eliminate bass from his music altogether. And, that's a heavy compliment. I mean, and he's had some great bass players before and after. And he's always given a little spotlight and a little shine to each and every one of them. But that, to me, is the most memorable quote about any of his bass players that I've ever heard. And to me, that was about the funkiest thing about the revolution. Granted, I would say, the sort of controversy 1999 era, that was funky in itself, because basically they had to keep up with the time. And, as the time were gaining strength and cohesion as a band and giving Prince and the Revolution, or pre-revolution, or whatever they were then, a serious run for their money night after night on those tours. So there's just an element of funkiness that's just there from that period, that I gravitated towards as well. Yeah, I was a huge time fan, but, knowing that Prince, did create the sound, but on, taking it to the stage, the time were wiping them out, but they were holding their own, and there was some definite funk on Controversy, and there's definite funk on 1999 as well, even though that's all Prince. But again, taking it to the stage, that was pretty funky. But as it became sort of the Purple Rain era, and then Around the World in a Day and Parade, to me, that was especially sort of that Purple Rain, Around the World in a Day era. To me, even though they were kind of going into that sort of Beatles and psychedelic phase and stuff, to me, Brownmark was holding down the funk with the bass, or his bass playing gave those sort of Beatlesque tunes a sort of a funkier edge, that, the Beatles themselves couldn't duplicate. Because there's a little funk, say, like on Sgt. Pepper and Magical Mystery Tour. But it's sort of like a proto-funk. But to me, what kept a lot of Around the World in a Day a true bona fide carbon copy of what the Beatles were doing, I think it was just, Prince's songwriting instincts, arranging instincts, but having the Revolution as a band playing, yeah, to me, I think that the funkiness of Brownmark gave those sort of Beatlesque style tunes that edge that it needed to separate it from everything else. So let's get a little bit into get in to his biography and resume here. Now, of course, I record this show on Sunday nights, and it airs on Monday. But as of this recording, today is March 8th, which is Brownmark's birthday. He was born March 8th, 1962, as Mark Brown, but we all know him by the stage name of Brownmark. And he's not only a bass player, but a really great producer as well. I remember around late 1984, and me, and I'm sure probably a lot of you around at that time too, were either avid readers or collectors of Right On magazine. To us, that was sort of our Rolling Stone. Even it was kind of like on a more adolescent level sometimes. But we didn't have our own, say, what the kids had. The rock kids had like Tiger Beat and Cream and all those magazines that were focusing on, say, like the Rolling Stones or Led Zeppelin or something. So Right On was like our equivalent, and it was devoted totally to R&B and funk. And kind of as the 80s came in, it was the Jacksons, Michael Jackson, the Silvers, and Prince was sort of, especially early on, was sort of that their kind of poster boy for that magazine. But as we transitioned into the Purple Rain era, it soon became about anything and everything Minneapolis in some segments. And I remember there was one issue, and I wish I still had it, that did a little tiny feature. Maybe it was like even paragraph or two, but it was focused on Maserati. And they had a publicity picture. Now, they didn't look like they ended up looking on the album cover or the videos 2 years later. Right at this point, they were still a pretty hot band around Minneapolis, playing all the Minneapolis venues and gaining a good reputation. And that the word around was, Brownmark was the guy behind it. But, it was normal, just typical 80s hairstyles. It wasn't nothing too crazy. But they had these really cool jackets. They all dressed in like jeans, but they had these cool jackets and everything. And I was like, now that's a band. That is a band. Fast forward to, what they ended up looking like on record. But the record is a damn good record, though. That was, that should have gotten a little more promotion. But we all know what was going on. Prince was focused on Under the Cherry Moon and didn't really give them the attention that they needed. So, but the bottom line is that was some really great production by Brownmark, as well as David Z as well. And remember, they were the ones that took Prince's demo of Kiss and reworked it into the version that we all know and love. And then Prince took it back for himself, added a few more things to it, and became the hit record we all know and love. But as far as what Brownmark and David Z were doing with Maserati, that was a really great album. And that's one of my favorite sort of Paisley Park era albums. For me, The Family, Jill Jones record, and Maserati are probably like, that's it. That's sort of my top three. A little bit for Shalee's Romance 1600 and her third solo album. Those were great albums for me, but I tend to go back to those three more with that. So, yeah, Maserati and Jill and the Family, those I kind of really, those have stayed consistent from the time that they were released on through now, as opposed to, I'll go back and, every so often and revisit, some of the others Paisley Park material as well. So, but, because of different disagreements with Prince, Brownmark left, and, well, actually, Prince disbanded the Revolution. So let's rewind it because that was wrong. So, of course, Prince disbanded the Revolution, but there were some disagreements with Brownmark prior to that. And Brownmark decided to stay, finish out the remaining tour. But when Prince disbanded the Revolution, that was pretty much the end of it altogether. So Brownmark then signed with Motown Records and released his first solo album. And that was an album titled Just Like That. That was released in 1988. And what was significant about that album, it took me a while to get that one. Friend of mine, Walter, like I said, we used to write songs and stuff together. But our thing was kind of, we didn't always sort of gravitate towards the hits. Of course, there's a lot of hit songs by people we enjoyed. But we were always sort of like into the B-sides of records and obscure records. So we were always looking for something a little to the left and, try to improve on that a little bit, or get inspired by that a little bit. So he ended up buying the Mark Brown record first. And I remember when he got it, it was a thing of, on the back of the album cover, it's like there's a list of, everybody he thanks. I mean, it's like a who's who of the Minneapolis sound almost. And everybody got a shout out except for Prince. And I remember our reaction was just kind of like, whoo, this brother must be really pissed. Because, it's like everybody. And it was like, man, so that was heavy. But I mean, musically, it didn't really sound like it didn't really capitalize on the Minneapolis sound, or he didn't try to cash in a lot of it. I think there were interviews, I can't remember where, where a lot of that too, record company pressure. We all know that story, folks, where, there's all this interference, because it's like around 88 and New Jack Swing had taken over, hip hop was taken over. And, there's that pressure to kind of sound on, where the Minneapolis sound was becoming a little passé, to try to capitalize on that. But it's a nice album to hear, actually. I enjoyed it, kind of later on listening to it. I kind of enjoyed it a bit. The next album, Good Feeling, which came out in 1989. Now, I don't know much about that one. That one's definitely out of print. Of course, Just Like That is out of print as well. But if you kind of do a deep dive into your local record store, maybe you can find a copy, or go on Discogs or something. Maybe you can still find these albums. And again, support your local record stores. I mean, Apple Music's cool. I have that. I love my Spotify, my Tidal account. That's cool. But, these record stores, not the chains, your Targets and your Best Buys and your Barnes and Nobles and all of them, they're pretty much going to be fine. But it's really the mom and pop stores that really just need the support. So any chance you can, say if your local record store doesn't have it, you can go online to say like something like Discogs and order it online. They're plugged into a lot of different local record stores, I think not only across the country, but maybe even across the globe as well. Many Prince fans are familiar with Rocket Pool over in the UK as well. But yeah, definitely support these local stores, because these are music enthusiasts. But again, if you want to seek out Brownmark solo albums, that might be the way to go. So somebody across the country, across the globe may have it. But as far as the second album, Good Feeling, I don't know that much about it. All I remember is the single Bang Bang, which Prince produced for him. So maybe they patched things up and, blessed him with a hit. I remember getting a little rotation on BET. That's how I came across the song. And yeah, that's pretty funky, and it kind of had the little Bob George kind of a thing at the end of it. The video's a little weird, but the song itself is pretty funky. So I'm hoping that like the rest of the album is like that, because I guess I'll seek that out, because I already have the first solo album. But he had been pretty active, even kind of within the 21st century. He's released 2 albums. One's called It's Been a While Cryptic Album, that was in 2002, and then 6 Mile Breach, which was in 2010. He also managed to reunite Maserati and even added Mickey Free to the lineup. Let's see, I don't see any album releases by them as of yet. I believe they were working on something at one point, but if you check him out on social media, I'm sure he'll keep you up to date on that. But I'm sure also, because of the last few years, the touring schedule with the Revolution has probably taken a priority over any personal projects. And also, too, as I'm reading my notes here, so it looks like sometime in late 2020, he'll be releasing his own memoirs to be published by the University of Minnesota Press. So, okay, so that'll be something to look forward to as well. Wow, that's 2 books in 2020, so we'll have that along with Neil Carla's book as well. So, yeah, I'll be looking forward to checking that out. And also, too, like I said, kind of going back and checking out the record stores, and also too check out some of his latest works as well. So again, Brownmark, happy birthday, and keep the funk coming, keep it purple and on the one. And we're going to end our purple spotlight and move on to our Bite the Boots segment. And Bite the Boots is a segment that highlights a circulating bootleg or vault recording or video for consideration for an official release by the estate. And today's Bite the Boot selection is the 2010 Deluxe edition. All right, so once upon a time, back in around late 2010 or so, there was an announcement that there was going to be a release of a 2010 Deluxe. And of course, 2010 was the name of the Prince album that was released only in Europe and released in copies of the Daily Mail, and I think in the German edition of Rolling Stone magazine. But that was the only way you could get it up until recently with its addition to streaming on Tidal. But there was going to be a deluxe edition that was going to receive a wider release. But the album was never released. It was probably going to contain maybe extended versions of some of the songs on 2010 and feature some unreleased recordings as well. Kind of a little bit similar to Rave Into the Joy Fantastic, and then its sister album Rave Into the Joy Fantastic. Of course, songs like a longer version of Lay Down, that was released as a download on Prince's Third Eye Girl site at the time, and that was around right around 2013, if I remember. There was a song that kind of leaked around the Prince community called "Rich Friends." I've heard it once, but I don't remember that much about it. But there's also a song called "Welcome to America" that would have belonged on this particular set. It was also slated to get its own album as well, so that's a potential track that would have been included on the sequencing. Hot Summer is another one, a longer version of the song Laveau. And not much else is known about the deluxe edition itself, or if there was any finished artwork for it, or are there copies that have been printed of it. But this is one I feel the estate should consider kind of post 2021. Not necessarily maybe the first thing they should release, but this is something that I would say, yeah, within, say, 2022, 23, 24, or again, even as a special record store day release. I would like to see that and then get wider distribution, within the week or two after. So definitely, again, if somebody's got the ear of the estate, again, more free advice. Again, not even getting paid in purple croutons or anything. So by all means, check it out. The 2010 original sequencing of the album that is on Tidal or Spotify or whatever your favorite streaming service is. You could purchase it on Apple Music as well. And I'm sure probably by the end of the year, if we don't get a 2010 Deluxe edition, but I do believe we will get a 2010 reissue before this year is over with. So I hope this ends up in the next round of Sony releases. Like I said, they're kind of getting towards the bottom of the barrel at this stage. So hopefully this will probably be one of the next ones to come out. Probably within that 2001 to 2010 period of Prince albums. This has to be probably after Rainbow Children and Musicology. Yeah, this is probably my favorite Prince release to me. In between there were albums like Lotus Flower to me was pretty strong. There's people that still try to get me to really, really get into 3121. I like it. I don't like all of it, but I like it. And of course, everybody knows here on Amari Purple Talk, I am not a fan of Planet Earth at all, given just one song. So to me, after, like I said, Lotus Flower was good. Minneapolis Sound was pretty good. And I thought, for me personally, as a Prince fan, it was a step back into the right direction to where I was like really, really, really looking forward to the albums and having a really great listening experience throughout. And 2010 was that one where I really enjoyed that album from beginning to end. There's every album has filler, but even some of the filler stuff, it transitions well from track to track for me. So this is definitely one I'm looking forward to. And somewhere down the line, if there's going to be a deluxe edition, yeah, this will be one of my most anticipated later releases by Prince that the estate and Sony can release. So I'm definitely looking forward to that one day. What's most important is, what do you guys think? Is 2010 one of your favorite albums? Do you want to see that come out in the next round of Sony releases? Do you want to see a deluxe edition of it someday? Leave me a comment and let me know your thoughts. And that is going to end this episode of Amari Purple Talk. And again, remember to always download and listen from your favorite podcast platform. We're on iTunes. We are on Spotify. We are on even iHeartRadio and Deezer. So wherever you listen to your podcasts, be sure and tune in and download and listen. If you're listening on YouTube, always hit that like button. Definitely subscribe. And also hit that notification bell as well, because I'm going to be dropping a lot of other stuff. Again, just keeping in mind the Amari Funk Soloist Hour, that is definitely still coming. Also, too, we're going to launch something on YouTube. It's going to be called The Hits and the B-Sides. And it's just going to be basically certain topics from past episodes of Amari Purple Talk that I'll periodically drop from time to time, because some topics are still relevant. And of course, some episodes, some of the topics, things have come and gone and is now in the rearview mirror. But there's still some things like, will we ever see the Gold Experience again? So for those that missed out on that, on your podcast platform, you can always go back. But we're going to just drop things so that way you don't have to listen to the entire episode if you just want to listen to that particular topic. So the hits and the B-sides are coming soon. Also, too, there is a blog. Actually, I'm a couple of articles behind, but you can check out what I have already. It's called What's in the Crate. You can check that out on wordpress.com. And it's just me diving through some of my vinyl, pulling out an album, and just letting you know what I think about it, or what I thought about it, or if it's something that I've come across that's new to me even, my initial thoughts. So be sure to check that out as well. And finally, Amari merchandise. So we have t-shirts and coffee mugs. There's Amari Purple Talk merchandise you can get. There's also Amari Communications themed merchandise that you can get as well. Get something for yourself. Get it for a gift for a friend, music lover, future stocking stuffer, Secret Santa, whatever. Be sure to just check it out and get something nice. So with that, we're going to end today's show. And as always, let's try to leave this planet a little bit better than how we found it. And as always, keep it purple and on the one.